With a wide variety of locomotive power and locations from coast to coast, Pentrex presents Previews Volume 5. In this fast-paced sampling of our latest releases, you'll experience the excitement of the unexpected. Railroading favorites of yesteryear. And some vanishing giants, as well as other great railroads in fantastic locations. Beginning here at Corwith Yard in Chicago, we set out on a tour of Santa Fe's Chillicothe Sub. All of the scenes were shot during the final days of the railroad's independence. Plenty of red and silver war bonnets were on hand, leading the company's hottest trains across the Illinois countryside. We visit many favorite locations such as McCook Junction, Willow Springs, and Joliet on the way out of the greater Chicagoland area. Illinois farmlands provide a beautiful background as hot trains race across the terrain past fields of corn and beans. Edelstein Hill is one of the line's most famous landmarks, and we view trains as they work upgrade out of the Illinois River Valley. At Cameron, the Santa Fe crosses over top merger partner Burlington Northern's tracks. The Chillicothe Sub nears its end after the tracks cross over the Mississippi River on this combination railroad and highway bridge into Fort Madison, Iowa. Don't miss the action along Santa Fe's Chillicothe subdivision as Pentrex takes you on an exciting tour of the line. This is the Santa Fe that you'll want to remember as trains sprint across the heartland. Take a trip into the deepest regions of Appalachia, far into the coal-producing areas of southern West Virginia, along the Norfolk Southern's Pocahontas District. You'll see train after train transporting coal out of these mountains to markets throughout the world. But the black diamonds of the mountaineer state aren't the only commodities traversing the Pokie. Time freights carry all types of general merchandise across this link between the Midwest and the Tidewater and Piedmont regions of Virginia and North Carolina. The scenic beauty found in this region is awesome. Tunnels and bridges are found all the way across the Pocahontas district. We'll visit a coal loader and watch as strings of hoppers are topped off. The cars are pulled by an unusual diesel. You'll see the newest locomotives in Norfolk Southern's vast fleet tackle the steep mountain grades as eastbound trains climb up to the summit at Elkhorn Tunnel. Helpers are required on almost all eastbound trains as they struggle up the 1.4% grade. Don't miss the excitement as we tour the line from Williamson to Bluefield. This is everything you'd expect in heavy-haul mountain railroading. Tunnels, bridges, big trains with helpers, and that beautiful West Virginia countryside. It's all here for you to enjoy in our production along the Pocahontas District, coal trains, and time freights. Climb aboard for an adventure-packed tour of America's passenger train service as Amtrak celebrates its 25th anniversary. Highlights of this anniversary special include the Southwest Chief, Auto Train, Coast Starlight, Empire Builder, Desert Wind, Sunset Limited, and other well-known trains as they travel the Northeast Corridor, Hudson Division, Horseshoe Curve, Chicago Hub, and many other exciting routes. A fascinating mix of motive power, onboard views of popular trains, cab rides, spectacular run-bys, gorgeous scenery, and non-stop action bring you the best of Amtrak across America. What's a hotspot? It's a place where one can see a concentrated number of trains in a short period of time. Traveling across the eastern half of the Conrail system, Pentrex has compiled a portfolio of 16 great train watching hotspots. Numerous movements are observed at these fantastic locations, capturing the essence of Conrail operations. We visit revered locations like CP5, legendary spots such as State Line Tunnel, exciting places like Tift Street Overpass in Buffalo, and spend a fantastic morning at CP Burn in Allentown. These and other mandatory hotspots are visited along with a trip to the Shrine, the #1 hotspot of them all, Horseshoe Curve. Join us for this exciting tour around the system as we visit Conrail Hotspots East. Pentrex journeys to Conrail Hotspots West. Come along with Pentrex as we visit 18 of these exciting locations on the western portion of the Conrail system in the states of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. All of the Conrail trains are identified by their symbols indicating cities of departure and destination. In addition to Conrail movements seen passing through busy interlocking plants, you'll also see trains belonging to the other railroads that share these important junctions. Norfolk Southern, CSX, Union Pacific, Illinois Central, Amtrak, and Grand Trunk trains are viewed in action. Big Blue treats us to a spectacular show. Trains are viewed pounding across diamonds and racing through switches as they sprint across the system. Don't miss the action and excitement as we take you on a journey around the Midwest. It's a journey to places where numerous trains can be observed, a journey to Conrail Hotspots West. Just 6 days remained until the Santa Fe was to be merged with the Burlington Northern. Wanting to do something special to pay tribute to one of America's favorite railroads and to say goodbye to an old friend, we set out on a trek across the Marceline Sub to document Santa Fe's last days. Much of the Marceline Sub cuts across an isolated portion of northeastern Missouri. The region's highways don't follow the tracks, and roadside services are scarce. But those individuals who venture into the area are rewarded with fantastic scenery. Our trek from Fort Madison, Iowa to Kansas City was made during the final 6 days of Santa Fe's existence. Our journey was timed for an arrival at Kansas City on the evening before the merger. Sun, clouds, or driving rainstorms, we worked through it all across the 217 miles of the subdivision. "30 miles of joint line operations with Norfolk Southern provided the opportunity to view a competitor at work. By the time the clock had run out on the Santa Fe, we had arrived at the end of the Marceline Sub in Kansas City. Our trek across Missouri was complete, and our video stands as a tribute to the people who made it a great railroad. Join us on this countdown to merger as we tour the Marceline Sub from end to end, saying goodbye to one of the country's railroad icons, the legendary Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway Company. In October of 1995, Daylight 4449 pulled both freight and passenger trains in northern and central Oregon. The trips were run over the Portland and Western and Willamette and Pacific railroads. These short lines are subsidiaries of the Genesee and Wyoming Incorporated, a New York-based company who owns small railroads throughout the United States. The WP and PNW lease almost 300 miles of former Southern Pacific and Burlington Northern trackage to the west and south of Portland. The highlight of this production is a freight train pulled by the 4449 on a beautiful sunny afternoon. The Daylight pulled freight from Newburgh to Albany over the former SP West Side line. You'll also witness the 4449 pulling a VIP passenger train from Albany to Toledo and return over the Oregon Coastal Range Mountains. This scenic 75-mile line is the WP's Toledo District, which features lots of curves and several miles of 2% grades. The 4449's tender was lettered for both the Willamette and Pacific and the Portland and Western railroads. The purpose of the trips was to increase public awareness in the new short lines and entertain online shippers. You don't want to miss the 4449's return to steam in Daylight 4449's Oregon journey. Tehachapi Loop at the 3,000-foot elevation in the Tehachapi Mountains is often referred to as one of the 7 wonders of the railroading world. The loop is possibly the best known and most frequently visited railroad location in the western United States. For 119 years, trains have been climbing the grade and circling the loop in the Tehachapi Mountains. In 1995, there is something new at the loop, as Pentrex presents Double Stacks over Tehachapi. In January of 1994, the Southern Pacific Railroad embarked on a major tunnel project designed to increase the clearances of the 12 remaining Tehachapi tunnels. The ultimate goal of the project was to allow the use of excess height double-stack cars in trains over Tehachapi Pass. In this production, you'll experience both Southern Pacific and Santa Fe intermodal trains working their way around the famous Tehachapi Loop. Much of the action takes place at diverse and photogenic locations at or near the loop. Most of the Santa Fe trains have war-bonnet-painted engines in the lead, making for some colorful locomotive lash-ups. Experience the ever-changing world of big-time railroading in Pentrex's 30-minute color and stereo presentation, Double Stacks over Tehachapi. Join Pentrex as we travel to southeastern Colorado for a visit to the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. This scenic route is the northern branch of the former Denver and Rio Grande Narrow Gauge Railroad. The terrain from Durango to Silverton is both rugged and beautiful. Pentrex photographers spent several years capturing footage of the line. Watch as the train fights the 2.5% grade and the 24-degree curves. The line passes through spectacular scenery, including the River of the Lost Souls. We visit Silverton, the northern terminus of the line, with its fine shops and restaurants, and feel the flavor of old-time railroading. Pentrex is there for the winter trains on this scenic route. Don't miss this exciting look at narrow gauge railroading at its finest as Pentrex presents the Durango and Silverton. It's the Pentrex Holiday Train Extravaganza. It's the Christmas trains. Christmas and trains. The two are bound in tradition. Pentrex explores 8 different venues featuring both real and toy trains, all dressed up for the holiday season. You'll see full-sized steam locomotives pulling Santa trains. A Lionel Extravaganza used as a holiday fundraiser. Specially designed garden railroads set up for the season. And a real diesel-powered train on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad that's been decorated with over 20,000 Christmas lights. Historic O-gauge models on holiday layouts. All this and more are featured in this exciting holiday program called The Christmas Trains. Originally shot on 16mm film by a former Baldwin employee and author John Kirkland, early Baldwin diesels on the Southern Pacific documents various Baldwins being delivered to and operating on the Southern Pacific. You'll see factory-fresh S12 locomotives being delivered, AS616s being placed into service, and learn about the DRS-6-6-1500/1 that was being tested for Bunker C fuel conversion. A special bonus includes the tragic results after 3 AS616s went into the Napa River in Northern California due to an open swing bridge. Early Baldwin diesels on the Southern Pacific makes a great addition to any collection. There's only one operating narrow-gauge wood-burning 440 in the United States today, the Eureka and Palisade No. 4. Built by Baldwin in 1875, this locomotive has been restored to its original splendor. Pentrex joined the No. 4 for a special 9-day visit to the Durango and Silverton in the mountains of southwest Colorado. The diminutive locomotive is constantly thirsty for water and hungry for wood. This gleaming locomotive is an awesome sight as it braves 3% grades, razor-sharp curves, and precarious ledges high above the Animas River. The Eureka and Palisade is the history of Western railroading in motion, and an experience you'll never forget. In July of 1994, the Pacific Limited Group of Utah sponsored a series of special passenger trips through the scenic Feather River Canyon in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. The Feather River Specials were powered by recently rebuilt UPE-9 locomotives 951, 963B, and 949. The Union Pacific put together a classic streamliner for these trips, which included 6 domes in the 15-car train. Except for the yellow paint, it's easy to recall images of the famous California Zephyr train that once ran through the canyon when the line was owned by the Western Pacific. Join Pentrex as we follow the passenger specials through the rugged and scenic Feather River Canyon on 2 separate weekends. You'll witness the train at many famous locations in the canyon, such as Rock Creek Trestle, Serpentine Canyon, the Ketty Y, Williams Loop, Clio Trestle, and many others. An exciting segment of this tape is a cab ride aboard E9 number 951 from Portola to Ketty and return. From the cab, you'll enjoy many scenic vistas as we follow the middle fork of the Feather River. Experience Williams Loop and the Ketty Y from the perspective of the locomotive crew as the train rolls through these locations. One unusual trip left the main line at Ketty traveling north on UP's 112-mile-long Bieber subdivision. Here we see the train crossing the Spanish Creek Trestle on the High Line, having just left Ketty. The train journeyed north on a portion of the line to Westwood before returning. Thanks to the Pacific Limited Group and the Union Pacific Railroad, passenger trains could once again be found riding the rails in the Feather River Canyon. Join us for a scenic outing in the Sierra Nevada mountains in Pentrex's 45-minute presentation of Feather River Canyon E9s. There was a time not many years ago when the train was the preferred mode of transportation for long-distance travel in this nation. For a 30-year period starting in the late 1930s, the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway earned a reputation among the traveling public for first-class service and on-time performance aboard its beautiful streamliners. For passenger train historians, nothing says Santa Fe more clearly than the sight of a stainless steel streamliner racing across the desert southwest, pulled by a matched set of locomotives painted in the famous war bonnet colors. The peak years for streamlined passenger trains on the Santa Fe were probably the middle to late 1950s. A partial list of daily trains would include the Super Chief, Chief, El Capitan, San Diegans, San Francisco Chief, and others. One of the finest places to watch many of these trains was in Southern California. Most of the Santa Fe's Los Angeles-bound passenger trains were routed over the 2nd District of the Los Angeles Division between San Bernardino, Pasadena, and Los Angeles. In later years, this stretch of railroad was simply referred to as the Pasadena Subdivision. We invite you to enjoy another in our exciting series of historic hotspots as Pentrex presents Santa Fe's Pasadena Subdivision. During the first half of our show, you'll experience fantastic images of Santa Fe passenger trains at various locations on the Pasadena Sub. These scenes were photographed by Chet Hogan during a 3-year period starting in 1950. The remaining portion of our production features a cab ride aboard F7 locomotive number 314 as it powers the Chief over the Pasadena line to San Bernardino and then over Cajon Pass to Barstow. This part of the show was photographed by J. Allen Hawkins in the early 1960s. All this railroading action comes to life through computer-enhanced scene-to-scene color-corrected 16mm film footage. This production also features dramatic audio specially prepared for this 1-hour presentation. Historic Hotspots, Santa Fe's Pasadena Subdivision is one show that you don't want to miss. Los Angeles, in Southern California, is the industrial, financial, and trade center of the western United States. The greater Los Angeles area has experienced tremendous growth in the last 60 years, and 3 railroads, the Union Pacific, Southern Pacific, and Santa Fe, have played an important part in that growth. Join Pentrex for a nostalgic look at rail fanning in Southern California in the post-war 1950s. At this time, streamlined passenger train travel was at its zenith, and the Los Angeles Union Passenger Terminal was a busy place in the downtown area. With almost 70 arrivals and departures daily, LAUPT was the busiest passenger train terminal on the West Coast. For rail fans, it's a great place to watch some of the finest trains of the Santa Fe, Union Pacific, and the Southern Pacific railroads. Mission Tower is northeast of LAUPT and controls the throat tracks leading to the terminal. Here you'll experience steam and diesel-powered trains from the three railroads as they roll past the tower. These freight and passenger trains were photographed on a single day in August of 1951. To the east of Los Angeles, the Santa Fe and Union Pacific Railroads exit the LA Basin eastbound through precipitous Cajon Pass. In June of 1949, regular steam operations had returned to Cajon Pass as the Santa Fe Railroad was short of diesel power. Here you'll see dramatic scenes of double-headed steam-powered freights battling the 2.2% grades of Cajon Pass, and some of the trains have steam helpers pushing behind the caboose. You'll also see first-generation diesels such as PAs, FMs, and EMD-F units powering the many passenger trains traversing Cajon. Some of these passenger trains have steam or diesel helpers. All of this steam and diesel action was recorded on just one day in June of 1949 at various locations in Cajon, including Summit. In January of 1951, the Railway Club of Southern California sponsored a Banker's Holiday steam-powered special on the Southern Pacific. Pulled by a 4400 class 484 and a cab forward, the special journeyed round trip between Los Angeles and Caliente and Tehachapi Pass. Along the way, you'll see freight and passenger trains as they meet the special at various locations in Soledad Canyon and Tehachapi Pass, including Tehachapi Loop. Other places we'll visit include Glendale and Burbank Junction on the Southern Pacific. We'll also take a ride aboard a steam-powered mixed train on the Santa Fe Railroad between Corona and Elsinore on the Elsinore branch. You'll witness first-generation diesels at their finest, powering freight trains over Tehachapi and Beaumont passes in the middle to late 1950s. Guiding our tour through Southern California are four well-known railfan historians. Richard Steinheimer, Stan Kistler, Chard Walker, and Don Sims all grew up in the greater Los Angeles area. Each of them will share their personal experiences while watching and photographing trains of the three major railroads during this time period. All this railroading action in the 1950s comes to life through computer-enhanced scene-to-scene color-corrected 16mm film footage. Add to this the dramatic audio specially prepared for this production, and you have one of the most exhilarating presentations ever offered by Pentrex. See why Southern California in the 1950s is such an exciting, historic hotspot. Experience the Milwaukee Road of the early 1970s as Pentrex takes you on a video adventure along the Rocky Mountain Division. We explore the entire electrified line from Harleton, Montana to Avery, Idaho in this exciting 3-volume set. In Volume 1, you'll see box cabs and Little Joes hard at work in Alberton, Montana, and from Avery, Idaho through the St. Paul Pass. Highlights include profiles of the two General Electric-built motors which ran on the electrified division, the gutsy and enormously popular Little Joes, and their predecessors, the impressive box cabs. In Volume 2, Harleton to Butte, we will take a close look at the eastern portion of the electrified Rocky Mountain Division and also travel between Harleton and Lewistown, Montana on a non-electrified line. We'll visit the yards at Harleton, which link the electrified division with the non-electrified line to the east. A highlight of our tour includes a look at Vendome Loop and the magnificent Pipestone Pass, where we'll take a cab ride in one of the Little Joes on our way to Butte, Montana. The Little Joes and box cabs that once conquered these incredible grades were electric power at its finest. In Volume 3, the Rocky Mountain Division, Pentrix travels the full 440 miles of the electrified division from Harleton, Montana to Avery, Idaho. This historic footage was shot just months before electrified service ended on this division. You'll get a close look at the mighty power that pulled freight across this beautiful territory, braving steep grades and spanning awesome gorges. From mountain prairies to steep tree-covered peaks, the Rocky Mountain Division was indeed breathtaking. With non-stop action and spectacular scenery, these are videos you won't want to miss. Experience the Orange Empire Railway Museum, the largest operating railway museum in the western United States. From its humble beginnings of preserving a few antiquated streetcars, this Southern California landmark has grown into a huge 70-acre facility with over 200 locomotives, passenger cars, trolleys, freight cars, and interurban electrics. Each weekend, visitors come to enjoy the exhibits and ride trains on the museum's railway, including the Big Red cars. The Yellow cars. And a variety of diesel and steam trains. You'll see it all: the displays, volunteers at work, rail festival days, plus dozens of trains and trolleys in operation on the museum's railway. The Orange Empire Railway Museum is a railroading adventure you won't want to miss. Pentrex takes you behind the scenes at Santa Fe's shops in San Bernardino, Barstow, and Winslow during the 1950s to witness the complete servicing of early freight and passenger diesels. Watch as routine maintenance such as cleaning and fueling is performed. You'll see Santa Fe's diesel repair crews checking all the mechanical elements inside the locomotives. Watch as relays and reversers are checked out and traction motors are inspected and serviced. Locomotive usage and service was closely monitored. In the shops at Winslow, traction motors were swapped and repaired, and trains were back on their way in a matter of hours. Engine overhauls were done at San Bernardino. Here the diesel engines were removed, repaired, painted, and reinstalled. Santa Fe, the diesel locomotive, its servicing, maintenance, and repair, shows you dozens of scenes that few have witnessed. It's the complete procedure for servicing a fleet of active diesels on a busy railroad. EMD Jeeps and SD9s are locomotives that helped revolutionize American railroading in the 1950s. They disappeared from most Class I railroads in the 1970s and 80s. Into the 1990s, significant numbers of them could be found at work on one Western railroad, as Pentrex salutes SP's Jeeps and Cadillacs, vintage workhorses. In the spring of 1994, Jeeps and Cadillacs had returned to SP's main line. Here we see the 4366 West, the RVFRL, or the Roseville to Fresno local, approaching the American River Bridge in Sacramento. Pulling the train are 3 SD9s and 2 Jeep 9s. The scenes of Jeeps and Cadillacs at work on the Southern Pacific Railroad were captured on SP's Fresno line, which runs from Bakersfield to Sacramento. The Central California route travels through the heart of California's 400-mile-long Central Valley. This is part of SP's north-south main line between Los Angeles and Portland, Oregon. This show chronicles some of the last mainline and branch operations of Jeeps and Cadillacs in the spring of 1994. For several months, these engines were regularly assigned as power for the Roseville to Fresno local, which runs daily in each direction. Even though they are called locals, these are long and heavy mainline trains, some in excess of 100 cars. For a short period of time, solid sets of Jeeps and Cadillacs were at work on the main line, much as they had been in the 1950s and 60s. Besides the mainline action, we'll follow a set of Jeeps on the Lodi Local as it travels over the Ione branch out of Galt. At the end of the line in the Sierra foothills town of Ione, the local interchanges cars with Baldwin number 9 of the Amador Central. On the return trip, we'll ride in the cab of Jeep 3742 as the train drops down grade, returning to the main line at Galt. This was the last hurrah for SP's aging fleet of Jeeps and Cadillacs. By early summer of 1995, all of the remaining GP9s, SD7s, and SD9s were placed in storage. With the exception of a few SD7s that were being used in the yard at Roseville late in the year, the book has closed on the 40-year history of SP's Jeeps and Cadillacs, vintage workhorses. Welcome to the Central Valley of California. Stretched out as far as the eye can see are the crops that make this agricultural region the most productive in the nation. Running through this 400-mile-long valley is the Southern Pacific Railroad's north-south main line between Los Angeles and Portland, Oregon. The SP laid rails through the Central Valley in the early to mid-1870s, opening new markets to the growing numbers of single-family farmers who were settling in the valley. Today, the Central Valley is host to a variety of SP mainline trains, including this intermodal headed for Portland, Oregon. Join Pentrex for a tour of SP's San Joaquin subdivision as Pentrex brings you SP's Central California mainline. Up and down the valley, you'll see a great variety of trains pulled by numerous examples of SP motive power, both old and new. Coal trains from Utah are now frequent travelers through the valley, and some of SP's newest and biggest locomotives are being used on the heavy trains. It's possible to follow trains on the Fresno line by automobile, as the 99 freeway closely parallels the SP line through the Central Valley for almost 200 miles. Here we pace alongside the BNBKG as it rolls east near Tipton. A list of places visited in this tape would include Bakersfield, Goshen Junction, Fresno, Modesto, the Lathrop Y, Stockton Tower, El Pinal, Lodi, Elvis Tower, and Roseville. There are a number of unique bridges that can be found on the route, such as this impressive structure that spans the American River in Sacramento. In late summer of 1995, the Union Pacific Railroad stunned the nation by announcing their intentions of buying the Southern Pacific Railroad. If the sale is approved in the summer of 1996, the long history of the SP will come to an abrupt end. Lots of trains, plenty of sunshine, and a unique operation make SP's Central California Main Line a tape that you'll enjoy for years. Scranton in northeast Pennsylvania was the place to be in the summer of 1995, as the long-awaited debut of the Steamtown National Historic Site took place over the July 4th weekend. Join us as Pentrex presents Steamtown Grand Opening. Our coverage starts with a tour of Steamtown's core complex, a working 13-stall roundhouse and turntable area with history and technology museums, a visitor center, and a theater completing the full circle of buildings. In the days of steam locomotion, the roundhouse was where the engines were stored between assignments and where maintenance and light running repairs were made. At Steamtown, visitors can view the locomotives up close from the safety of a mezzanine walkway, which circles one end of the roundhouse. In the Technology Museum, interpretive displays examine the numerous advances and changes railroads have experienced over the years. Using diagrams and video presentations, visitors can learn how a steam locomotive operates, explore 100 years of progress in railroad communications and signaling, and learn how the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad was an early pioneer in the use of concrete in the construction of bridges and buildings. On July 1st, 1995, the new Steamtown National Historic Site opened its gates to the public as the grand opening celebration got underway. With free admission over the 4-day 4th of July weekend, thousands of people crowded into the park to witness the opening festivities. The main event of the day was the Great Steam Parade, which took place in the rail yard. The crowds watched and listened as the 6 operating steam locomotives came chugging by the viewing area.
Engineer Steve Sandberg.
Milwaukee Road number 261 was one of 3 steam locomotives invited to visit Steamtown during the summer. Pentrex followed this engine through the states of Pennsylvania and New York as it made its way to Steamtown. You'll also witness New York, Susquehanna, and Western number 142 pulling an excursion train from Syracuse, New York to Scranton. The National Railway Historical Society chartered a special train to the grand opening festivities in Scranton on July 1st. Alco Diesels handled the train in one direction, with Milwaukee Road number 261 returning the train to Pocono Summit that evening. The NRHS held its annual convention in Lancaster, Pennsylvania that week and bused convention attendees to Pocono Summit to board the train for Steamtown. In Steamtown Grand Opening, you'll witness engines like number 425 from the Reading Blue Mountain and Northern Railroad as they blast up the grade from Scranton to Moscow. Pentrex brings you all the excitement and action of steam railroading in this 1-hour presentation from Scranton, Pennsylvania, home of the Steamtown National Historic Site. Operating through fantastic Northern California scenery with a fleet of beautifully painted locomotives, the California Northern has been attracting fans from everywhere. It's California's first regional railroad, and the company's been busy since its inception, hauling commodities such as lumber, steel pipe, and lots of sugar beets. The growth has been incredible, and you'll see why as we tour the entire system. You'll see beat trains working the West Valley Sub and ride down the line with one of California Northern's female engineers.
I like to run an engine. I'm very interested in doing that. That's a lot of fun.
The Petaluma turn traverses a highly scenic route between Napa Junction, Shellville, and Petaluma. The line passes over several movable bridges, and you'll see them in operation. Steep grades on the line are a challenge to heavy trains. A pipe train operating over Creston Hill puts on an awesome show as it struggles across the summit. You'll see trains running through California's beautiful wine country and ride on board the Hopland Turn as it traverses the scenic route through Cloverdale Canyon. 5 tunnels are located along this part of the line. To bring the video to a thrilling climax, we'll follow a lumber train out of Willits as it works up over the steep grade on Ridge Hill. You'll ride along with the experienced engineer as he expertly guides the heavy train down the mountain on 3% grades. The California Northern is another exciting video from Pentrex, the leading producer of railroad videos, books, and magazines. When it comes to quality, Pentrex leads the way. The Joint Line is an action-filled stretch of contemporary mainline with a colorful past. 2 fiercely competitive railroads, the Denver and Rio Grande and the Santa Fe, built parallel tracks between Denver and Pueblo, Colorado in the mid-1800s. However, the competition came to a halt during World War I when the U.S. government forced joint operations between the 2 railroads. Today, the Joint Line supports the Southern Pacific, including the Denver and Rio Grande, the Santa Fe, and the Burlington Northern. Coal, freight, and passenger trains utilize this heavily traveled right-of-way. The gorgeous scenery of Colorado is highlighted in this video, and we visit many popular locations along the line, including Castle Rock and Palmer Lake. Heavy freights, non-stop action, and a variety of motive power combined with breathtaking Colorado scenery make the Joint Line an incredible video you won't want to miss. Images like these come to mind when only one word is spoken: rat hole. This legendary line between Danville, Kentucky and Oakdale, Tennessee is known as one of the most scenic pieces of railroad in the East. Pentrex explores the line from one end to the other, taking in all the scenic highlights of this remarkable railroad. The awesome New River Bridge symbolizes the importance of this line. Norfolk Southern operates up to 40 trains a day through the rat hole. Those glossy black thoroughbreds speed across the line, pulling heavy tonnage trains over the undulating countryside. It's an exciting show as Norfolk Southern's diesels work the grades. Join us for this fascinating tour along one of America's most revered pieces of railroad. For non-stop big-time action, the rat hole is the place to be. Southern Pacific's route between Tucson, Arizona and Lordsburg, New Mexico is a challenge to operate. The tracks pass over 4 mountain summits on their way across the highly scenic southwestern desert and mountain countryside. You'll see all of these scenic areas as an exciting variety of trains are shown operating across the line. The Stormy gets its name from the large-sized thunderstorms found here in the summer. Avoiding flash floods and extreme heat, we visited the area during spring wildflower season. Trains are viewed as they pass across the unique desert landscapes. Semaphore signals are rapidly disappearing from railroad lines across the country. Here on the SP, we documented the last days of these revered sentinels before they were taken out of service. Southern Pacific undertook a major track expansion project during 1995 and added miles of double track across Arizona. Having captured an important moment in history, you'll see the line while it was under construction. Two different short lines exchanged traffic with the SP along the route. You'll see them at work when they arrive to interchange cars with Southern Pacific. Running short of locomotives, SP leased a large fleet of colorful diesels at this time, and you'll see many of these visitors as they work across the system. Fantastic scenery and awesome trains. It's all here for you to savor and enjoy in the stormy Southern Pacific's Lordsburg District, available now from Pentrex. Pentrex has produced a companion video to The Rat Hole that puts you on board Triple Crown train number 252 for a ride across the district from Emery Gap, Tennessee, up the entire length of the legendary line to Danville. You'll have the cruise perspective of this scenic piece of railroad, observing the line from the head end. There's plenty of meets along the way, and you'll see them all. Crossing over the high bridges and passing through deep cuts. It's a thrilling ride over one of the most scenic lines in the East. Climb aboard as we take you through the Rat Hole. Pentrex presents an incredible 4-hour video featuring dozens of America's classic steam locomotives in operation throughout the U.S. today and yesterday. Ride along through the beautiful Colorado high country on the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. Watch the mammoth Norfolk and Western 1218 as it works its way through the Rat Hole and other picturesque locations of the East Coast. We'll see the granddaddy of the excursion locomotives when the Southern 4501 takes to the rails. You'll get a close-up look at the maiden run of the restored Milwaukee Road 261. And in the midst of a West Virginia winter, you'll be there as the C&O 614T gets a workout as it performs tests aimed at developing the next generation of steam-powered locomotives. You'll also see such all-time steam favorites as the Norfolk and Western 611, the Southern Pacific Daylight 4449, and the behemoth Union Pacific Big Boys. Today's Steam Across America is a must for every steam lover's collection. Still operating after years of service, these old locomotives put on an amazing show in our feature, U-Boat Survivors. You'll see U-28Bs pulling heavy coal trains across the Kentucky hills. U-30Bs are still found in service, and we traveled south to visit the Georgia Central operation. A U-33B in passenger service was captured on the Blue Mountain and Reading Railroad. Much like a spotter's guide on video, every model of U-boat is shown. Statistical data and important identifying features are explained. The two last U-33Cs known to exist are seen operating on coal carrier Squaw Creek. We traveled to southern Indiana to include these rare U-boat survivors. U-23Cs and U-23Bs are covered, operating for various roads. In a tribute to New Jersey Transit's U-34CH diesels, we covered their final excursion. A grand going-away party was held in their honor, with a working unit placed on each end of a special train. These and many, many more locomotives are included in this look at General Electric's famous Universal Series diesels in U-Boat Survivors.